Good morning, one and all. Dr. Ashwati, am I audible? Ashwati ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, one and all. So today we are going to start our 5th session of Rachana Sangamam, Rachana 2020, the webinar, national level webinar conducted by Department of Anatomy, Shiva Ayurvedic Medical College and Hospital. I'd like to call Ms. Ridhima and team, 4th year BAMS, Shiva Ayurvedic College to deliver the prayer.
Yes, sir. Sir, are we visible?
Yeah.
Om Namami Dhanvantri Adidevam Surasure Vanditam Padpadanam Loke Zararuke Bhaya Mrityunasham Dadarnisham Vividoshreenam Dhanvantri Pradhanatham Sarvarogikarikam Ayurvedam Vande Piyusham Dayakam Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Santu Niramaya Om Shanti 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 Om.
Thank you. So now I welcome Dr. Ashwati Vinod, Assistant Professor, Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, KMCT Dental College, Kerala, for the session. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
So as an introduction, ma'am actually has completed her post-graduation, obtaining second rank in Kerala University of Health Sciences in Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery. Madam was also a guest speaker for the World Dental Conference conducted by Malaysian Dental Association at Malaysia last year. Madam has also written articles in national and international dental journals also. So myself personally, my department and also our college is privileged that you accepted our invitation wholeheartedly when we invited you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving your time. So I welcome you for the session, and the platform is all yours. You can start the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation and giving me an opportunity for a lecture here in your institute. Thanks for that first.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yeah, Dr. Ashwati, you are audible.
So have all the students joined now?
All are joined, ma'am. You can continue.
Okay. So good afternoon all. Hope I'm audible to you all.
Yes, ma'am. Your voice is clear. You can continue, ma'am.
Okay. So the topic allotted for me is nose and the paranasal air sinus. So speaking about the nose, we know that nose and the paranasal sinuses are associated with each other and both of them are connected. And now I'm going to discuss about the association between the nose, the anatomy of the nose, and how it is associated with the paranasal sinuses. How both of them are associated and how they work together as a single unit. That is being discussed in this topic. Okay, as you all know, from the part nose, anatomy of nose, I'll be discussing about the lateral wall of the nose and the septum, the nasal septum, the arterial supply, the venous supply, lymphatic drainage, and what are the clinical importance of this lateral nose and the medial septum. Same for the paranasal sinuses also. We'll be discussing about the maxillary sinus, frontal, ethmoid, and the sphenoidal sinuses. Hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
So going to the nose, it's a very simple topic. I would say it is the simplest topic in anatomy, nose and the paranasal sinuses. So as we all know that nose performs two functions, like it acts as a respiratory passage as well as it's an organ of smell. The receptors, the nose, we are dividing the nose into several compartments, and each compartment is assigned a particular work to do. Receptors for the smell are placed in the upper 1/3 of the nasal cavity, and it is lined by the olfactory mucosa, which means that the smell receptors, you receive your smell through this particular part. The receptors sense the smell in the upper 1/3 of the nasal cavity. Rest of the nasal cavity is lined by the respiratory mucosa, which means that they are assigned with the respiratory function. Then the respiratory mucosa, speaking about the respiratory mucosa, they are highly vascular and it warms the inspired air. And as you all know that nose, you have the glands. In the nose, there are several glands like serous glands and the mucus glands. Each serves a particular function. Secretions of these glands, if it is a serous gland, they make the inspired air moist. While the secretions of the mucus gland trap the air and other particles and help us to entrap the dust and other allergic particles before it enters into the respiratory tract and into the lungs. So these are the main functions of the nose. Nose is mainly divided into two parts, the external nose and the nasal cavity. External nose, the part you see outside. When you see someone, the part that is exposed outside is called as external nose. And you have the nasal cavity that is inside. The anatomical portion is called as the nasal cavity. There you can see in the picture, you can see the nasal bone. The pink shaded part is called as the nasal bone. And then you can see the superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, and you have the septal cartilage. The septal cartilage divides the nose into right and left halves. Is it clear?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Okay. So I think it's Anushka who's responding.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Anushka, please interfere in between if you have any doubt, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the external nose, just feel your nose. When I'm talking, there are a lot of limitations when it is through this net. Okay, I'm not able to convey what showing you the skeleton. There are so much limitations while I talk like this. So in case if you have any doubt, please don't mind interfering in between. Okay. External nose, that's a skeletal framework that is partly bony and cartilage. And if you feel the nose, you can feel, hope all are first years, right? In this batch?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you feel your nose, you feel your external nose, you can feel that there is a bony part above and a cartilaginous part below. Okay, that's a skeletal framework. There are two parts, that is bony and cartilaginous. The bones of the nose, which provide the stiffness to the bone, that is the hard bony part, which forms the bridge of the nose, are the nasal bone and the frontal process of the maxilla. Okay, you have the bridging of the nose is formed by the nasal process, and the frontal process of the maxilla provide the cartilage, the skeletal framework of the nose. Then coming into the cartilaginous part, you have different cartilages, that is superiorly and the inferior nasal cartilage, and it has been divided the right and left noses by the septal cartilage, and you have associated small other cartilages associated with these main cartilages. Now the skin over the external nose, the supply to the skin over the external nose is by the external nasal, infratrochlear and infraorbital nerves. These are the nerves that supply the skin over the external nose. Clear? So you know the position of the infraorbital nerves. Do you know where is the infraorbital nerves? Anushka?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Just immediately below the infraorbital rim, you have the infraorbital rim. If you take an orbit as a whole, you have the supraorbital rim and the infraorbital rim. Immediately below the infraorbital rim, you have the infraorbital foramen. And you have the infraorbital nerves and vessels coming out through the infraorbital foramen. Can you see where I am placing my finger?
Yes, ma'am.
This is where the infraorbital nerves and vessels exit out of the infraorbital foramen. Here,
Yes, ma'am.
and a part of that infraorbital nerves supply the external area of the nose. That is, skin over the external nose is supplied by three main nerves. That is external nasal, infratrochlear, and the infraorbital nerves. Now going into the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity extends from the external nares, that is the external nares, to the posterior nasal aperture, that is to the posteriormost part, and it is divided into right and left halves by the nasal septum. You have the nasal septum dividing the nose into right and left halves. The external nares are divided into right and left halves by the nasal septum. Each half has a roof, a floor, lateral, and the medial walls. While discussing the anatomical portion, every part of the systems are divided based on this anatomical location. You either say, how do you locate a particular point? By whichever bone it is, you locate the particular point by telling the anterior aspect, posterior aspect, medial, lateral. Clear? If it is a three-dimensional bone, then you will be also having a roof and a floor. Same way, all the bones associated with the nasal cavity are having a roof, floor. You are dividing the nose into two halves by the septum. The nasal septum divides the nose into the right and left halves, and each half is having a roof. Roof, which is a roof? That is, you divide your head like this. You cut the skull, the top portion of the skull will be taken out, and then you have to see the roof of that, and you have the floor. The cut goes like this. Okay? You have a roof, floor, and then a lateral and the medial wall. Medial wall will always be the nasal septum. Lateral wall, it is the medial wall. The lateral part of the nose, lateral wall of the nose will be the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. Is that clear? You have a roof for this nose, then you have a floor portion, and you have the lateral and medial aspect for this nose. Lateral, this is the lateral aspect, and this is the medial aspect. Medial aspect is by the medial septum, nasal septum, and the lateral half is by the portion of the maxillary sinus. So this lateral wall of the nose will be the medial portion of the maxillary sinus. Here you have your sinuses. Here you have your maxillary sinus. Here you have your frontal sinus. Clear? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So each half, now we are going into the dimensions of the nasal cavity. Each half measures about 5 centimeter in height, 5 to 7 centimeter in length, 1.5 centimeter in width near the floor. Floor will always be the alveolar process. The floor of the nasal cavity will be the alveolar process, the superior aspect of the alveolar process, and the palatine bone. That will be the floor, constituting the floor. The width near the roof will be short. It will be always width here over the roof portion will be 1 to 2 mm, and as it comes down, the width increases. That is up to 1.5 mm. Width near the floor increases up to 1.5 mm near the floor. Now going into the roof. The roof is about 7 centimeter long and 2 mm wide. You can see roof, it is 7 centimeter long. That is posteriorly. From this part, you are going posteriorly inside. It is 7 centimeter long and 2 mm in width. The width of that part is 2 mm. Middle horizontal part, now there you have the cribriform plate of ethmoid. The middle horizontal part is formed by the cribriform plate of ethmoid. Cribriform plate, that plate separates the anterior cranial fossa with that of the nose. Do you understand? The cribriform plate of ethmoid separates your anterior cranial fossa. The compartment of the anterior cranial fossa with that of the nasal cavity is separated by the cribriform plate. Okay, that forms the middle horizontal part of the roof of the nasal cavity. Then you have the anterior slope that is formed by the nasal bone and the nasal cartilage. Again, you have the posterior slope. That is posteriorly. This is your anterior part and you're going posteriorly behind. Okay. The posterior slope is formed by the inferior surface of the body of sphenoid bone. For this, you need to place a skull. The top portion of the cranium part should be cut, and then you have to keep the skull and you have to correlate what I am telling. Then only this will be clear. The posterior slope is formed by the inferior surface of body of sphenoid bone. Body of sphenoid is a butterfly shaped part seen in the posterior part. Okay. Coming to the floor. Floor, that is, you are going from here. If a cut is taken posteriorly, you get the floor that is about 5 cm long and 1.5 cm wide. It is formed by the palatine process of the maxilla. There you have the maxillary bone, the palatine process of the maxillary bone, and the horizontal plate of the palatine bone forms the floor of the nasal cavity. Going into the nasal septum, you can see the nasal septum in between the two halves. The nasal septum is a median osseo-cartilaginous partition. It is partly bony and partly cartilaginous. That is why it is called as osseo-cartilaginous partition between the two halves of the nasal cavity. On each side, it is covered by mucous membrane and forms the medial wall of both cavities. It just acts as a common passage. It is a common part. The septum divides the cavity into two, and this acts as a medial wall of both the nasal cavities. Now this nasal septum has three parts. You have the bony part, you have the cartilaginous part, and you have the cuticular part. Cuticular part is always associated with skin. You have three parts. You have the bony part, you have the cartilaginous part, and you have the cuticular part. Cuticular part is always associated with your skin. So how is the bony part formed? Bony part is formed mainly by two bones, that is the vomer and the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. You can see the vomer here. This is the nasal septum. You can see the vomer and the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. This is the anterior portion and you are going posteriorly. This is the posterior part. So you have the bony part posteriorly. The nasal septum is divided into three parts. That is the bony part, septal part, cartilaginous part, and the cuticular part. Clear? Anteriorly, this is the anterior portion and you are going more posteriorly. Posteriorly, you have the bony part that is formed by two bones. That is vomer and the perpendicular plate of ethmoid. Here. And in the marginal part of these main bones, you receive the contributions of nasal spine of frontal bone. Here you have the frontal bone. This is your frontal bone, and here you receive this perpendicular plate of ethmoid receives contributions from the nasal spine of frontal bone. Rostrum of sphenoid. Here you have the rostrum of sphenoid and the nasal crust of palatine and maxillary bones. All these contribute together to form the bony part of the nasal septum. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have the perpendicular plate of ethmoid and vomer. Both act as main bony parts of this septum. Along with that, you have the contributions of the nasal spine of frontal bone, rostrum of sphenoid, nasal crust of palatine and maxillary bones. They constitute the bony part of the nasal septum. Going into the cartilaginous part you have the septal cartilage, septal process. Here you can see this blue color represents the septal cartilage. Then you have the septal process of the inferior nasal cartilage. You have superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, and septal cartilage. We already discussed, while discussing the external features, we discussed that they have three cartilaginous: septal cartilage, inferior cartilage, and superior cartilage. Of that, here in the median septum, you have two cartilaginous parts, that is the septal cartilage and septal process of the inferior nasal cartilage. Then going to the cuticular part is the anterior most part. It is covered by fibrofatty tissue covered by skin. That is the anterior most part, the tip of the nose. Lower margin of the septum. The lower margin of this septum is called as columella. This is called as columella. And this is the fibrofatty tissue covered by skin. They form the cuticular part. Now going into the arterial supply. This is your septum. And here you can see the arterial supply. This septum is being divided into 4 quadrants. You divide the septum into 4 quadrants. This is considered to be your antero-superior portion, postero-superior portion, antero-inferior portion, and the postero-inferior portion. The nasal septum is divided into 4 quadrants. Of that, the antero-superior portion, that is anterior and superior part, that is called as the antero-superior portion. that is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal artery. Clear? That is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal artery. Then postero-superior. Do you understand how the boundaries are divided?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Should I repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
You want me to repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See, this is the nasal septum. This shows your nasal septum. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is your nose. Okay.
Yes.
Here you have your teeth. This is the palatine process of process here. This is the frontal bone. You have the frontal sinus there. This is your sphenoidal bone, and you have the sphenoidal sinus there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You divide this. You write a plus sign, and you divide this quadrant into 4 quadrants. This portion is called. This is anterior. This is the nose.
And yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where I'm passing this mouse, this is the nose. This is your anterior and superior portion. That is called as the anterior superior. You are dividing your nasal septum into 4 quadrants. First one is antero-superior. This is antero-inferior part. This is postero-superior part, and this is postero-inferior part. And you have 4 arteries supplying this nasal septum. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Antero-superior part is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal artery. Postero-superior part is supplied by the posterior ethmoidal artery. Antero-inferior part again is supplied by the superior labial artery. Postero-inferior part, antero-inferior, this is antero-inferior part that is supplied by the superior labial artery. And your postero-inferior, posterior and inferior, this part is supplied by the sphenopalatine artery. A speciality about this part is you have the anastomosis of 3 arteries here in the antero-inferior portion. There is a specialized part here, you call it as the little area or Kieselbad plexus, which is present in the antero-inferior aspect of the nasal septum. This is antero-inferior, anterior and inferior most part of the nasal septum. You join those 2 words and you call this part as the antero-inferior part. Here you have the little area or Kieselbad plexus. This is of clinical relevance. Why? Because epistaxis or bleeding from nose is noticed commonly from this area, that is the little area. That is because of the anastomosis of 3 main arteries, that is anterior ethmoidal artery, superior labial artery and sphenopalatine artery. 3 arteries combined together, and there is an anastomotic area in the antero-inferior part of the nasal septum called as little area or Kieselbad plexus. This area, injury to this area is the reason for bleeding from nose. If you get a sudden blow to your nose, it starts bleeding because of the injury to this particular point, the little area or the Kieselbad plexus. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Should I repeat?
No, ma'am.
I explained this already. Antero-superior part is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal artery, postero-superior part by the posterior ethmoidal artery, antero-inferior by the superior labial branch of the facial artery. Postero-inferior part is supplied by the sphenopalatine artery. And I told you, antero-inferior portion, please have a look at this figure. Antero-inferior portion, you have anastomosis of the anterior ethmoidal artery, superior labial artery and the sphenopalatine artery, and this area, the anastomosis between these 3 arteries, this area is called as the Little's area or the Kieselbad plexus. This area is of clinical importance because if you get a blow to the face or nose, or when there is a trauma, patient often complains of bleeding from nose. Most commonly that will be because of the injury to this area, to this Kieselbad plexus. Okay, since it is an anastomotic area, compared with other parts, bleeding increases in this part because there are 3 arteries anastomosing at a single point. That is the reason why there are chances of increased bleeding at this particular point. Venous drainage, a plexus of vein which drain anteriorly into the facial vein, anterior part that drains into the facial vein, and posteriorly through the sphenopalatine vein to the pterygoid venous plexus. Nerve supply, you have 2 types of nerve supply, that is general sensory nerves and special sensory nerves. Special sensory nerves, you know, nose, it's an organ of smell. So special sensory will be obviously olfactory nerves to the olfactory area. General sensory nerves, you have again this is divided into quadrants. Always when speaking about the nose, the lateral nose and the medial septum are divided into 4 quadrants, and that is how you explain the nerve supply and the arterial supply. Clear? Hope you know the difference between artery and nerves, right?
Yes.
Hope you all understand the difference what an artery is, a vein is, and a nerve is, and its functions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So nerve supply, general sensory nerves, anterior superior part, it is by the internal nasal branch of the ethmoidal nerve. Posterior-inferior part is by the nasopalatine branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Posterior superior part, it is by the medial posterior superior nasal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Special sensory nerves, that is the olfactory nerve to the olfactory area. You have receptors of that in the posterior part, and the smell is being sensed by the olfactory nerves in that particular area. Lymphatic drainage, anterior half will go to the submandibular nodes. You have the submandibular nodes here. The anterior part drains into submandibular, and the posterior half will go to the retropharyngeal and deep cervical nodes. So clinical anatomy, I already told you, bleeding from nose, and next one will be a deviated nasal septum. What is deviated nasal septum? In certain patients, you can see that they come to what will be their complaint is they keep complaining that there are repeated attacks of cold, allergy, sinusitis, and they will be on an like cetirizine, antihistamine. They'll be on antihistamine for a long time. The actual cause of that will be a deviated nasal septum. Your septum will be deviated either to the right or left side. That can only be surgically corrected, and all these issues related to the deviated septum like common cold, allergy, rhinitis, etc. can be corrected by correcting your deviated nasal septum, and this deviated nasal septum can be corrected only surgically. Going into the lateral wall of nose. So this is we discussed about the medial septum of the nose, and now we are going into the lateral wall of nose. You have both sides, you have the lateral wall of nose, and this lateral wall of nose will be the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. You have the maxillary sinus here. You have maxillary sinus, a pair of maxillary sinus on either side of your nose. The lateral wall of the nose, this is the lateral part of your nose. This lateral part of your nose will be the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. Clear? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So lateral wall of nose, it is irregular. You can feel your lateral wall. You can find that it is irregular. Why is it irregular? It is because of the presence of shelf-like bony projections called as concave. You have different concaves on the lateral wall of nose, and the space between this concave, you have the superior concave, middle concave, and the inferior concave, and the space between this concave is called as a meatus. Okay. What is the need of this concave in your nose? This nose is a very small part which helps in two main functions like respiration and it helps in respiration and your olfactory function. And this concave increases surface area of the nose. It provides a little higher surface area for the nose. This lateral wall is again divided into 3 parts. Medial wall, we told that it is divided into 3 parts, that is bony, cartilaginous, and cuticular part. Same way, the lateral wall is also divided into 3 parts. You have the small depressed area in the anterior part called as a vestibule. Sorry. You have a small depressed area in the anterior part that is called as a vestibule. It is lined. You can see short, stiff, curved hairs called as vibrissae outside your nares. That part is called, this anterior part is called as the vestibule. Then you have the middle part that is called as the antrum of the middle meatus. And then you have the posterior part which contains the concave. Okay. You have the concave which is present in the posterior part. This concave are the shelf-like projections that is seen on the lateral wall. This concave increases the surface area, and the space separating these concaves are called as the meatus. When you are crying, that water comes through the nose. That is because you have a connection between the nasolacrimal duct and its opening to the nasal cavity. Okay, when you are crying, water comes through the nose. Why is it so? You have a connection, nasolacrimal duct. You have a connection, a duct between the eyes and the nose. You have the nasolacrimal duct. And that duct, the patency of the duct is evaluated by the test. You have seen those tests being performed. So what happens? All these ducts are opened into these meatus and concaves. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So have a look at this picture. This is the skeleton of the lateral wall, which is partly bony, partly cartilaginous, and partly made of soft tissue. So this is the anterior part and this is the posterior part. Here in the anterior part, you have the nasal bone, then you have the frontal process of maxilla, then the lacrimal bone, labyrinth of ethmoid, inferior nasal concave, perpendicular plate of palatine bone, and the medial pterygoid. You are going from the anterior part to the posterior part. You have the nasal bone, then you have the frontal process of the maxilla, then you have the lacrimal bone, then you have the ethmoid part, labyrinth of the ethmoid, then you have the inferior concave, okay, then you are going more posteriorly to the perpendicular plate of ethmoid, that is the posterior part. You have the perpendicular plate of palatine bone and the medial pterygoid plate. This is how the skeletal part is being divided. The lateral wall, it is being divided from anterior part to the posterior part. It starts from the nasal bone, then it goes behind up to the medial pterygoid plate. Cartilaginous part, we already discussed this in the initial slides. You have the superior nasal cartilage. Please have a look at the figure. You have the superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, and associated 3 or 4 small cartilages of Ella. Superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, and associated 3 or 4 small cartilages, and then you have the cuticular part. Cuticular part is always associated with skin. You have the fibrofatty tissue covered by skin in this portion. Then concave. We already discussed that concaves are seen in the posterior part, and this concave increases the surface area of your nose. Between the concaves, you have space separating your concaves, and this is called as the meatus. You have 3 concaves. You have the inferior concave, middle concave, and the superior concave. So, see, this is your superior concave. The superior concave starts from the posterior part of the middle concave. Please focus on the figure. You have the superior concave, inferior concave, and the superior concave, middle concave, and the inferior concave. You can see that the superior concave starts from the posterior aspect of the middle concave. Inferior concave, it is much below. Okay. Superior concave, it is smallest and it is situated just above the posterior part of the middle concave. And here you can see in this picture, you can see different openings. You can see several openings have been put here. This this is the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. Here you have again the opening of the middle ethmoidal sinus. Here you have the opening of the posterior ethmoidal sinus. And here you have the hiatus semilunaris. There you can see the front opening of the frontal sinus, opening of the anterior ethmoidal sinus, opening of the maxillary sinus. So all these sinuses, in the initial part itself I told you, all these sinuses and the lateral wall of nose are associated with each other. So they have openings. The sinuses have the openings in the lateral wall of nose. All the sinuses have their opening. In one or the other part, all of them have opening on the lateral wall of nose. Is that clear? Please focus on the picture. Here you can see these concaves are present in the posterior part of the lateral wall of nose. You have 3 types of concaves, that is inferior concave, middle concave, and superior concave. Out of the 3, superior concave is the smallest and is situated just above the posterior part of the middle concave. To study this, you need to focus on the anatomical picture. Then only this will be clear. And you can see the space, after each concave, you can see the space between them. This space is called as the meatus. Okay. In this figure, you can see the opening of all the 4 sinuses to the lateral wall of nose. All these sinuses open into the lateral wall of nose. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
About the meatus, The passages below the overhanging concave, each meatus communicates with the nasal cavity. So inferior meatus. It lies below the inferior meatus. It lies below the inferior concave. This is your inferior concave, and the inferior meatus lies below the inferior concave. This is the largest of the three concaves. And now you can see the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. That is the reason why when you cry, you feel the watery discharge in your nose. That is because of the opening of the nasolacrimal duct just below the inferior concave into the inferior meatus. Now this opening is guarded by the lacrimal fold or the Haisner's valve. Okay. Why is it guarded? Why is it guarded? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Any one of you please answer. Why is it guarded? What is the speciality of a wall? Anyone? Anushka?
Ma'am,
Yes?
Ma'am, otherwise the mucus will flow, I guess.
Yes. There will only be flow in a single direction. That is the specialty of a valve. Only a single flow will be there. That will not flow in the opposite direction. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Middle meatus, it is below the middle concave. There you have three structures. Ethmoidal bulla. What is this ethmoidal bulla? It's a rounded elevation produced by elevation of the underlying middle ethmoidal sinus. Then you have hiatus semilunarius and infundibulum, that is the anterior end of hiatus. You have three structures below the middle concave. And three openings are also present. I've already discussed this. You have the opening of the frontal air sinus in the anterior part of hiatus semilunarius. Just have a look at this figure. You have the anterior part, you have the opening of the frontal sinus. Here you have the opening of the anterior ethmoidal sinus, and in the posterior part you have the opening of the maxillary sinus. So there are three openings that are present immediately below the hiatus. Okay. Superior meatus, that is present below the superior concave. We already told that superior concave is smallest among the three, and it is present in the posterior part of the middle concave. It is towards the posterior most part of the middle concave. You have the opening of the posterior ethmoidal sinus there, and it's the shortest and shallowest of the three. There, another structure comes in between, that is the sphenoethmoidal recess. It's a triangular shaped fossa that is seen above the superior concave. There you can see the opening. That part receives the opening of the sphenoidal air sinus. Okay, this is the sphenoidal air sinus, and this triangular area receives the opening of the sphenoidal air sinus. Arterial supply, same as the medial wall, we are dividing this arterial supply into 4 quadrants. Lateral wall is arterial supply, you divide the lateral wall into 4 quadrants. There you have the antero-superior quadrant, you have the supply of the anterior ethmoidal artery. Antero-inferior part, you have branches of the facial artery, and some branches of the greater palatine artery are also present there. Postero-superior part, you have the sphenopalatine artery, and postero-inferior part, you have the greater palatine artery. You divide this wall into 4 quadrants. You can see dotted lines dividing this picture into 4 quadrants. You have the anterior ethmoidal artery in the anterior superior part. Antero-inferiorly, you have the facial artery and few branches of the greater palatine. Postero-superior quadrant, you have the sphenopalatine artery, and postero-inferior quadrant, you have branches of the greater palatine artery. Venous drainage. Anteriorly, they drain into the facial vein, posteriorly into the pharyngeal plexus, and middle part drains into the pterygoid plexus of veins. Nerve supply. You have general sensory nerves and special sensory nerves. Special sensory nerves, that the olfactory fibers are found in the upper part of the lateral wall. General sensory nerves, you can see the branches of the trigeminal nerve distributed in the whole of the lateral wall. Anterior superior quadrant, again you are dividing the lateral wall. To understand the nerve supply, you are dividing the lateral wall into 4 quadrants. In that, the antero-superior quadrant, it is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal nerve, antero-inferior quadrant by the anterior superior alveolar nerve, Postero-superior quadrant it is supplied by the posterior superior lateral nasal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Posterior superior lateral nasal, that is lateral part of the nose is being supplied, that is why it is lateral nasal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Postero-inferior quadrant is supplied by the anterior and greater palatine branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Lymphatic drainage, anterior half they drain into the submandibular nodes, posterior half into the retropharyngeal and deep cervical nodes. So clinical importance, what is the clinical relevance of lateral part of nose and importance of nose related with the clinical signs and symptoms? In some patients you can see that they frequently complain about infection, always they complain of sneezing, running nose, heaviness and haziness in the head, frequent headaches, etc. What is the reason for this? Either it can be due to some deviations or some anatomical variations or the irregularities they feel, and we initially discussed in the initial slide itself, we discussed that when there are variations in the secretion, when there are variations in the serous and mucous secretions, they can be different from individual to individual, they can be difference in them. I get an infection, but there is no need for you to get an infection. That is because of the resistance of the body, the amount of secretions, all this affects the infections related to the nose. Paranasal sinuses. I told you there are different openings. All the paranasal sinuses have opening in the lateral wall of nose. Infection from those sinuses can come to the nose. The secretions from those sinuses can reach the nose and cause infection from the nose, either to the nose or from the nose to the sinuses. Either way that can happen. Then I told you the roof of the nose. In trauma cases, accident cases, in the emergency department, you can see that there is leakage of the CSF through the nose. Cerebrospinal fluid leaks through the nose. How is it? What happens there? Patient will have bleeding from the nose. At the same time, that will be combined with the CSF also. That is because the roof of the nose is covered by the cribriform plate. This cribriform plate is a plate that separates the anterior cranial fossa and the nasal compartment. When the cribriform plate gets fractured, that causes drainage of CSF from the anterior cranial fossa to the nose, and that will be discharged through the nose. That will be mixed with blood, and it will be difficult for you to distinguish between the cerebrospinal fluid and the blood, whether it is blood tinged with cerebrospinal fluid or whether it is just blood. Okay, same way you have the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. The infection from the lacrimal apparatus can come into the nose via the nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so there are two chances spread of infection from the nose, that can either go into the cranium or to the nose via the nasolacrimal duct. Next one is hypertrophy of mucosa over the inferior nasal concave. Is a common feature seen in allergic rhinitis. By this, we come to the end of the nose. Okay. Next topic will be paranasal sinus. Do you have any doubts so far regarding the nose, lateral and medial wall? Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Is the topic clear?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You want any explanations regarding any clinical subjects discussed?
Ma'am, one student had messaged me.
Yeah.
If you are comfortable, can you repeat the concave once more, or the lateral wall of nose once more?
Which page?
Lateral wall of nose.
Okay. This one, right?
Yeah, including the concaves also, ma'am.
Okay, so you want me to repeat the whole lateral wall?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So see, lateral wall of nose. You can see this is your lateral wall of nose. You have this nose is divided into two compartments, that is right and left, and this is your lateral wall of nose. This wall becomes the lateral wall of your nose, and this same wall becomes the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. Okay. And you have bone-like, shelf-like projections that is called as concaves that increases the surface area of the nose. Again, this lateral wall is also same as the medial wall. This lateral wall is also divided into 3 parts. You have the anterior part that is called as the vestibule, that you can see small hair-like structures, stiff hair-like structures in the anterior part. Then the middle part, it is called as the antrum of middle meatus, and you have the posterior part which contains the concave. These concaves are simply called as the bony projections. And what is the role of this concave? They increase the surface area of the nose. The space below this concave, you have the superior concave, middle concave, and the inferior concave. The space below this concave is called as meatus. Okay. Same, this is divided into bony part, cartilaginous part, and the soft tissue part. Bony part, from the anterior part to the posterior part, you have the nasal bone, frontal process of the maxilla, then you have the lacrimal bone, labyrinth of ethmoid, inferior nasal concave, then you have the perpendicular plate of palatine bone and the medial pterygoid plate. These are the skeletal portions contributing to the lateral wall of nose. Same way, you have the cartilaginous part. Cartilaginous part, you can see the bluish part here, that is called as the superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, or 3 or 4 cartilages. These cartilages part constitute the cartilaginous part of the lateral wall. And you have the cuticular part, that is a fibro-fatty tissue that is covered by skin. You have the concaves here. Just have a look at this figure. You have the inferior concave, middle concave, and the superior concave. Out of this, superior concave is the shallowest and smallest of these 3. The inferior concave, it is the largest of the 3. The space immediately seen below the concave are called as meatus. These are the meatus. Where I am moving the cursor, this is called as the meatus. In this figure, please have a look at this figure. You have the opening of all the sinuses into this particular space. In the posterior part of the lateral wall, you have the opening of almost all sinuses into the posterior part of the lateral wall of nose. Here, just immediately below the inferior concave, you can see the opening of the nasolacrimal duct. This duct has a connection with your lacrimal apparatus. That is the reason, clinically, that is the reason why your saliva flows through the nose, that comes out through the nasolacrimal duct. Here you have the hiatus semilunaris. Here, the anterior compartment of the hiatus semilunaris, you can see the opening of the frontal sinus. Then in the middle, you have the opening of the anterior ethmoidal sinus. This ethmoidal sinus is divided into parts. Okay, anterior part, posterior part, and the middle part. Ethmoidal sinus is divided into 3 parts: anterior, middle, and posterior part. Here on the hiatus semilunaris, you can see the opening of the anterior ethmoidal sinus. Then posteriorly, you can see the middle opening of the maxillary sinus. Immediately below the middle concha, you can see the opening of the posterior ethmoidal sinus. Below the superior concha, you can see the portion of the posterior ethmoidal sinus. So you can see posterior ethmoidal sinus here, middle ethmoidal sinus here, and the anterior ethmoidal sinus. All these sinus come in a single straight line. Is that clear? Is this clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So you can see the opening of the posterior, middle, and anterior ethmoidal sinus all in a row. They can be mild anatomical variation, but almost all in a straight line. So you can see in this figure, you can see the opening of almost all the openings are present in the lateral wall of nose. My intention is to make it clear that they have a clear-cut connection between the sinuses and the nose. Any infection from the nose or from the sinus can go in the either way, to and fro. Coming to the blood supply, again you are dividing this. You can see the dotted lines in the picture, dividing the lateral wall into 4 quadrants. Anterosuperior part, that is supplied by the anterior ethmoidal and assisted by the posterior ethmoidal artery here. Then you have the anteroinferior part. This is called as anteroinferior part, that is by the branches of the facial artery. Posterosuperior part, that is by the sphenopalatine, and posterior quadrant, that is by the greater palatine. Venous drainage anteriorly. Again, this is divided into compartment: anterior, middle, and posterior. Anterior part, it drains into the facial vein, posteriorly to the pharyngeal plexus, and middle part into the pterygoid plexus of veins. Nerve supply, you have 2 main supplies, general, same as the middle, septum. general sensory and the special nerves. You divide the lateral wall into 4 quadrants. Anterosuperior quadrant is by the anterior ethmoidal nerve. Antero-inferior quadrant is by the anterior superior alveolar nerve. Posterior quadrant is by the posterior superior lateral nasal. Supplies to the lateral wall of nose. That is why you are mentioning it as lateral nasal branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Posterior-inferior quadrant by the anterior or greater palatine branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Special sensories are the olfactory nerves that is present in the upper part of the lateral wall. Lymphatic drainage, anterior half to the submandibular and posterior half to the retropharyngeal and upper deep cervical nodes. Is it clear now?
Yeah, ma'am. If I'm getting further doubts, I'll be conveying you when we have the discussion session.
Okay. So shall I continue?
Yeah, ma'am. You can continue.
Going into the paranasal sinus, we have 4 paranasal sinuses. These sinuses are close association with your nose. The sinuses, you have your frontal air sinus, you have the maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is the largest paired sinus among the others. Then you have the ethmoidal sinus and the sphenoidal air sinuses. These paranasal sinuses are mucosa lined by air spaces present within the bones of the face and skull. What is the role of this paranasal sinus? They provide resonance and they reduce the weight of the skull. That is the main role of this paranasal sinuses. These sinuses are present in the name of the same bone where they are present. Like maxillary sinus is present in the maxillary bone. Ethmoidal sinus is present in the ethmoid bone. Sphenoidal sinus is present in the sphenoidal bone. Frontal sinus is present in the frontal bone. They are named by the bones in which they are present. Paranasal sinuses are mucosa lined air spaces present within the bones of the face and skull. There are 4 bilaterally paired paranasal sinuses: frontal sinus, maxillary sinus, ethmoidal sinus and sphenoidal sinus. Have a look at this. Anterior view and the lateral view. You have the frontal sinus that is present in the frontal bone. You have ethmoidal air sinuses that is present in the ethmoidal bone. You have anterior, middle and posterior ethmoidal sinus. Then you have the sphenoidal sinus. Normally it is difficult anteriorly when you take a view, it is difficult to see the sphenoidal sinus because it is present in the posterior part. Anteriorly it is difficult to view the sphenoidal sinus. Here in this picture you can see the sphenoidal sinus which is colored yellow. And you have the maxillary sinus which is present on the maxillary bone. In the lateral view, it is better, you can appreciate the sphenoidal sinus much than the anterior view. You have the frontal sinus, ethmoidal air sinus. Ethmoidal air sinus, in the previous figure I showed you, there are 3 openings. You found 3 openings of the ethmoidal sinus, that is anterior, middle and posterior openings. So you have here same way, you have the anterior, middle and posterior ethmoidal sinus, sphenoidal sinus and the maxillary sinus. All sinuses open into the lateral wall of nasal cavity by small aperture that allow the equilibrium of air and movement of mucus. Position of aperture, form and size of the sinus vary enormously between the individual. You cannot say this is approximately so much. You cannot never correctly, you cannot say that okay, this frontal sinus, this person will have a frontal sinus of approximately so much. There are difference in the dimension. In a same individual, there are difference in the dimension between the right and left sinuses. So you cannot say that okay, this is, you can just say an approximate value. Okay, and there can be anatomical variations in that also. Mucosa of the sinus is continuous with the nasal cavity, which favors the spread of infection. Mucus is secreted by the glands and swept through the aperture to the nose by the cilia. The mucociliary escalators is the normal mechanism for clearing the sinus and maintaining aeration. This is the physiological part of sinus. Have a look at this figure. You have the frontal sinus here, right frontal sinus and the left frontal sinus. This is the nasal cartilage. Here you have the maxillary antrum, ethmoidal cells. This is the orbital posterior part. Here you have the sphenoidal sinus. Okay, all these sinuses have an opening to the lateral wall of nose. Keep that in mind. Functions of paranasal sinus. They humidify and warm the inspired air. They impart resonance to voice. They increase the surface area for the absorption of gases and trapping of particles in the inspired air. They allow only purified air to go inside the lungs. Lightens the weight of the skull. Helps in absorbing the shock of blows to the face and thereby limiting the extent of facial injury from trauma. Serves as an accessory olfactory organ. It serves as an accessory olfactory organ by evenly distributing the inspired air. These are the functions of the paranasal sinus. All these functions are performed and shared by all the sinuses. Coming into the maxillary sinus, this is the largest of all the sinus. It's otherwise called as Andrum cave of Highmore. It's the first sinus to develop. You can see the right and left maxillary sinus. I told you this lateral wall of nose is the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. Have a look at this figure. You can see that is pyramidal in shape. This is the base and this is the apex. You can see the roof of the maxillary sinus is the floor of the orbit. And floor of the maxillary sinus is the alveolar process. The alveolar process forms the floor of the maxillary sinus and the floor of the orbit is the roof of the maxillary sinus. Hope that is clear. Should I repeat?
Ma'am, please repeat करें आप.
Pardon?
Ma'am, will you please repeat this again?
Okay. Look into the figure. You can see right and left maxillary sinus. That is a paired maxillary sinus. This is the lateral wall of nose. Lateral wall of your nose becomes the medial wall of the maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is pyramidal in shape. This is the base and this is the apex. This is the base of the maxillary sinus and this is the apex of the maxillary sinus. So base of the maxillary sinus is by the lateral wall of nose. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Superiorly, that is the roof of the maxillary sinus is the floor of the orbit. Roof of the maxillary sinus is the floor of your orbit. Which means when you are talking about the anatomy of the orbit, floor of the orbit will be the roof of the maxillary sinus. Both are associated. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And the floor of the maxillary sinus, see this figure, the floor of the maxillary sinus, here you have the alveolar process. Floor of the maxillary process is by the roof of the alveolar process. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the coronal section of face. Here you have the maxillary sinus on either side. Here you have the ethmoidal sinus cells. Okay, this is the nasal septum. Nasal septum divides the nose into two parts. Here you have the floor of the orbit, which is the roof of the maxillary sinus. Here you have the teeth. This is the alveolar bone that serves as a floor of the maxillary sinus. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
These projections are called as concave, and the space below this is called as meatus. Dimensions of maxillary sinus at adulthood, it is 3.2 to 3.4 centimeter in the anteroposterior depth. Anteroposteriorly, it is 3.2 to 3.4 centimeter. Vertical height will be 3 to 3.5 centimeter. Width will be 2.3 to 2.5 centimeter. Its volume, the volume of the maxillary sinus will be approximately 15 to 20 ml. Anatomy. The maxillary sinus is a horizontal pyramidal in shape. It consists of a base, an apex and four sides, that is superior wall, anterolateral wall, posterolateral wall and the inferior wall. It has a base and an apex. It has four sides, that is superior wall, inferior wall, anterolateral and posterolateral wall. Base of the maxillary sinus is formed by the I told you it is pyramidal in shape. Have a look at this figure. This is the base of the maxillary sinus and this is the apex of the maxillary sinus. So base of the maxillary sinus will be the lateral wall of nose. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Figure. This is the lateral wall of nose. This lateral wall of nose will be the base of the maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is pyramidal in shape with its base as the lateral wall of nose and the apex towards the zygomatic bone. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you can see the base of the maxillary sinus is formed by the lateral wall of nose. Apex of the sinus, it is formed by the junction of maxillary bone and the zygomatic bone. On an average, the distance between the base and the apex will be about 25 mm. That is the distance between the base and the apex. The anteroposterior will be about 25 mm. Sometimes the sinus is large and the apex extends into the zygoma also. There can be anatomical variations in every sinus. Okay. Here you can see cross-sagittal section. This is the maxillary sinus. This is the orbit. Here you can see the floor of the orbit, which becomes the roof of the orbit. Here you can have the alveolar bone, which is a floor that forms the floor of the maxillary sinus. Here there is a clinical relevance. That is, while you extract, when there is extraction of this tooth, what happens is this floor will be very thin. So there can be chance of oro-antral communication, oral and antral communication when there is close proximity of the roots of the maxillary tooth with that of the sinus. Superior wall. This wall forms the roof of the sinus and floor of the orbit. All this is already discussed. Okay, I'm just going through the slides. This is already discussed. Superior wall, it forms both the roof of the sinus and floor of the orbit. Its thinnest wall and mostly flat, slopes slightly anteriorly and laterally. The infraorbital canal runs along this wall, crosses from back to front and attenuates the fragility of this wall. This wall is frequently involved in orbital and maxillary trauma. This wall normally gets fractured in trauma, and what happens is there will be herniation of the orbital contents into the maxillary sinus. When there is trauma, since this is a thin wall, what happens is fractures and there will be herniation of the orbital contents into the maxillary sinus. Okay. Because of the relative thickness of this wall, position of the infraorbital tumors of the maxillary sinus can erode this wall readily. The tumors of the maxillary sinus erodes the wall of the orbit and that can go into the orbit also. See this? When there is a fracture, when a trauma is there, this is the thinnest wall and not the thinnest, it is one among the thinnest wall. And what happens is when there is a fracture of this wall, the orbital contents get herniates into the maxillary sinus. The orbital contents herniate into the maxillary sinus and gives a hooding appearance to the eye. Gives a hooding appearance to the eye. And how do you repair this? You have to replace the contents into the orbit and place a mesh here and separate the orbit and the sinus. Same way, this sinus communicates with the oral cavity. Here you have the mouth. When you extract a tooth, then there is a thin wall between the maxillary sinus and the oral cavity. There will be a connection between the maxillary sinus and the oral cavity, which is called as the oro-antral communication or oro-antral fistula. Anterolateral wall. Anterior aspect of maxilla extends from the pyriform aperture medially to the zygomatico-maxillary suture laterally, superiorly to the infraorbital rim and to the alveolar process and the maxillary teeth inferiorly. Clear? Pyriform aperture medially, zygomatico-maxillary suture laterally, superiorly to the orbital rim and inferiorly to the alveolar process and the maxillary teeth. Posterolateral wall, that is in the posterior part, okay, that is otherwise called as infratemporal wall. This is made up of zygomatic bone and greater wing of sphenoid. It separates the maxillary sinus from the infratemporal and pterygopalatine fossa. This wall is chondrous and it bulges out posteriorly. That is the posterolateral wall of the maxillary sinus. Here you have the sphenoid bone, and here there is a separation between the maxillary sinus and the sphenoid sinus by the pterygopalatine fossa. This part has been separated. Posterior superior alveolar nerves and vessels sometimes present in close contact with the sinus mucosa. In such instance, acute sinusitis, when the patients complain of acute sinusitis, that can be accompanied by pain in the maxillary posterior teeth. Immediately posterior to this wall, the vital structures that are involved immediately posteriorly to this wall, lateral wall, are maxillary nerve, maxillary artery, nerve of pterygoid canal and sphenopalatine ganglia. Access to the pterygopalatine fossa is accomplished by careful removal of this wall. So when you are doing cosmetic surgery, that is regarding my specialty, maxillofacial surgery, when you go for cosmetic surgery, when you suppose that is a patient complains of procline tooth and you need to go for a surgery, cosmetic correction, what happens? The posterior wall will be cut during the procedure. So there can be interference of the maxillary artery or the maxillary nerve during the procedure when going more posteriorly. That should be taken care of. You have the descending part of the posterior superior alveolar vessels that can also cause bleeding during the time of procedure. I don't know how important that is for your specialty. Okay. Floor of the sinus, already discussed. The floor of the sinus is formed by the maxillary alveolar process. It is approximately 1.5 centimeter below the floor of the nasal cavity. It corresponds to the line drawn laterally from the ala of nose. A line drawn corresponding to the ala of nose. From the nose, when you draw a line posteriorly, that will be the floor of the sinus. Descending order of proximity to the sinuses: second molar, first molar, third molar, second premolar, and first premolar. Chances of exposure of the maxillary sinus during a tooth extraction: more of second molar and first molar. Okay. There can be a septa that is present between the alveolar recess to the sinus between the second and first molar. Bone may be dehisced, exposing the roots to the sinus mucosa. Periapical, when there is any periapical or sinus pathology, there can be a reason for thinning of the portion between the alveolar bone and that of the sinus, which causes exposure of the sinus during extraction of the tooth. As age increases, the chance of oroandral fistula also increases. Septa may be present in the alveolar recess in the sinus between the second and first premolar. Sorry, that is a repetition. Okay. Ostium. Ostium, it is a communication between the maxillary sinus and nasal cavity. It is located 2 cm from the anterior aspect, 2 cm from the posterior wall, and 4 cm from the floor of the sinus. It opens. Where does this open into the? This open into the posterior part of hiatus semilunaris to the middle meatus. This is already, I explained this, showing you the figure there. Now all these openings, are you able to see all these openings in the nasal cavity? That is the next question. You cannot see all these openings directly. It does not open directly into the nasal cavity, but opens into a narrow ethmoid infundibulum, and these curvatures or concave does not give a direct exposure to these openings. One, just if you open the nasal cavity, you cannot see these openings. They are all present into a narrow, they open into a narrow ethmoid infundibulum. Ostium, what is an ostium? It is, okay, how do you define an ostium? Ostium is occasionally considered as a canal of approximately 3 to 5 mm in length. Its location of the invagination of the nasal mucosa in the embryological phase. During the embryological phase itself, all these canals, etc. will be established, and only it develops in a later stage. Neurovascular supply. Arterial supply to this is by the facial artery, infraorbital artery, greater palatine artery. Venous drainage is by the facial vein, infraorbital vein, and the greater palatine vein. Lymphatic drainage again into the submandibular lymph nodes. Nerve supply by the infraorbital nerve. Anterior, middle, and posterior superior alveolar nerves supply the maxillary sinus. Frontal sinus. Frontal sinus, it is present in the frontal bone. It is rudimentary or absent at birth, and then it develops by the 7th to 8th year of life, but reaches the full size only after puberty. It is more prominent in males. You can see the frontal sinus here, ethmoidal sinus, and the sphenoidal sinus, and you have the maxillary sinus here. Clear? Paired frontal sinus are situated posterior to the superciliary arches between the outer and inner table of the frontal bone. So this is your supraciliary arches. They lie between the outer and inner table of the frontal bone, and you have the paired frontal sinuses there. Each underlies a triangular area on a surface. The inner table is much thinner than the outer table. So fracture of the inner table. Okay, commonly there can be outer table is strong. So if the blow is so hard, that can cause fracture of the outer table as well as the inner table. In such cases, there are chances for CSF leakage. As a result of chances of fracture of the inner table are more frequent even without the fracture of the outer table. Only the inner table can also get fractured. This is associated with trauma. Emergency department, when you approach a traumatic case, all these things should be ruled out before proceeding with the case. In this picture, you can see the frontal sinus here, maxillary sinus, sphenoidal sinuses. Okay, all these sinuses have drainages to the lateral wall of nose. The angles of frontal sinus are formed by the nasion. You have the nasion here. This point, this junction is called as the nasion. A point 3 centimeter above the nasion, junction of middle third and lateral 2/3 of the supraorbital margin. These are the angles formed by the frontal sinus. This point, the point where the tip of your nose meets, that is called as the nasion. Frontal sinus. Dimensions. Vertical height, it is 3.2 centimeter. Transverse breadth is 2.6 centimeter. Anteroposterior depth is 1.8 centimeter. Each extend upward above the medial part of the eyebrow and back into the medial part of roof of the orbit. It is seen on either side of the superciliary arches. The aperture of each sinus open into the anterior part corresponding to the middle meatus of nose. We already discussed this. You can see the opening of the frontal sinus into the middle meatus of nose. It opens by ethmoidal infundibulum or through the frontonasal duct. Arterial supply to the frontal sinus is by the supraorbital artery, anterior ethmoidal artery. Venous drainage, it anastomoses the anastomotic vein in the supraorbital notch. It connects the supraorbital and supraophthalmic vein. Lymphatic drainage, again it is into the submandibular notch, and nerve supply is by the supraorbital nerve. Ethmoidal sinus, these are small thin-walled cavities in the ethmoidal labyrinth. These sinuses are small at time of birth and they rapidly develop between 6 to 8 years of life and after puberty. The bones involved in this are frontal, maxillary, lacrimal, sphenoid and palatine bones are involved in this. Have a look at the base of the skull. You can see the ethmoidal cells here. This is your nasal septum. This is our right and left nasal compartment. Here you have the ethmoidal cells. This is your orbit. You have the sphenoidal sinus here. Okay, this is the base of the skull, cross section of the base of the skull. You can see the ethmoidal sinuses. You have anterior, middle and posterior ethmoidal sinus, and you have the sphenoidal sinuses here. They lie between the upper part of the nasal cavity and the orbit. It is separated from the orbit by a paper-thin orbital plate of ethmoid. It is divided into 3 groups, anterior, middle and posterior group. Anterior group, it is called as infundibular sinus. They lie in Agarnasi and also encroach onto the frontal sinus. They are 11 in number and open into the ethmoidal infundibulum or into the frontonasal duct. Again, that frontal sinus opens into the nasal cavity that through the frontonasal duct. This is the frontal sinus. Okay, you have the ethmoidal sinus arranged in a row. You have anterior, middle and posterior ethmoidal sinuses. And you have the sphenoid sinus immediately posterior, and this will be the position of the maxillary sinus. Middle group, it is called as bullar sinus. We already told that it opens into the ethmoidal bulla area, so it is called as bullar sinus. They are 3 in number and open into the middle meatus or no more orifice on or above the ethmoidal bulla. Ethmoidal bulla. Ethmoidal bulla, this is the most constant landmark for surgery. Okay, it lies above the infundibulum and its lateral and inferior surface and the superior edge of the uncinate process forms the hiatus hemilunaris. The anterior ethmoidal artery usually descends across the roof of the cell. This ethmoidal bulla is a landmark for surgery. So before going for a surgery, you have to mark the landmarks and you should be aware where you are going to approach and what are the structures passing in that particular area. Here you can see the ethmoidal bulla. This is the anterior ethmoidal cell. You can see the posterior ethmoidal cells. Here you have the sphenoidal cells. Posterior group, that is going more posteriorly, you have the optic canal and the optic nerve. These are 1 to 7 in number and open into the superior meatus of the lateral wall. Also, one or more open into the sphenoidal sinus. There you can see the connection between the sphenoidal sinus also. Okay, posterior group also communicates with the sphenoidal sinus. Neurovascular supply is by the sphenopalatine artery. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries are also involved in the arterial supply. Lymphatic drainage that drain into the submandibular nodes. Posterior group drain into the retropharyngeal nodes. Nerve supply is again by the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. Orbital branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Last one, sphenoidal sinus. These are again paired sinuses. At birth, the sinuses are minute cavities and their main development occurs after puberty. These are present posterior to the upper part of the nasal cavity within the body of the sphenoid bone, and these are paired sinuses. At birth, the sinus are minute cavities and their main development occurs after puberty. These are present posterior to the upper part of the nasal cavity within the body of the sphenoid bone. As already discussed, sphenoidal sinus, as the name indicates, that is present within the sphenoid bone. I have already discussed this figure. Relations of the sphenoidal sinus. Superiorly, you have the optic chiasma and the pituitary gland. See this figure? Superiorly, you have the optic chiasma and the pituitary gland here. Inferiorly, you have the root of the pharynx. On either side, you have the cavernous sinus and internal carotid artery. Anteriorly, you have sphenoethmoidal recess, and posteriorly, you have the pons and medulla. These are the relations of the sphenoidal sinus with the adjacent structures. Average diameter, vertical height will be 2 cm, transverse breadth will be 1.8 cm, antero-posterior depth will be 2.1 cm. Here you can see, in this section you can see, in this section you can see the ethmoidal sinus that is present on either side. Here you can see the nasal septum. This is your maxillary sinus. This is your orbit. Here you can see the internal carotid artery. You can see the position of the sphenoidal sinus here. Okay. Neurovascular supply. It is by the posterior ethmoidal artery, and the venous drainage is into the ethmoidal vein. Lymphatic drainage into the retropharyngeal lymph nodes. Again, this is supplied by the posterior ethmoidal nerves and the orbital branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Here, clinical importance. Here you can see the frontonasal duct. From the frontal sinus, you can see the duct passing into the nasal cavity. This is called as a frontonasal duct, and this opens into the middle meatus. The average capacity is about 7 ml in an adult. True frontonasal duct is seen only in 15% of the patients, and some cases this won't be patent also. Drainage of the sinus. This figure is of clinical importance. You can see all in this figure, it is very evident that you can see drainage of all the sinuses into the lateral wall of nose. This is the frontal sinus. Frontonasal duct helps in drainage of the frontal sinus into this area. Then you have the anterior cells. Then nasolacrimal duct again drains into the lateral wall of nose, that is nasolacrimal. From the lacrimal duct you have the opening to the nasal side. Then you have the middle cells here. Then maxillary sinus. Then the posterior cells, that is ethmoid, okay. And then you have the drainage from the sphenoid sinus also. This figure, please draw this figure for your exam if it comes as an essay question. This explains the drainage of the sinus into the lateral wall of nose. Clinical anatomy. Sinusitis, as we discussed, infections can pass from one sinus to another and also from the nasal cavity into the sinuses also. Sinusitis is a common complaint seen among almost 80% of the patients. They complain of heaviness in the head, difficulty sneezing, and then blowing, continuous blowing, etc. That can be due to the infections of the sinus. Infections from the nose can be transferred into the sinus, as well as from the sinus can come into the nose also. Next one is oroantral fistula and oronasal antral communication. This is when you have a connection between the sinus and the oral cavity. during extraction or during any procedure in the oral cavity or the maxillary sinus, there can be an established connection between the oral cavity and the sinus. These are the clinical anatomical relevance of the sinus in relation to the head and neck. These are my references. Any doubts?
The platform is open for discussion. If anyone have any doubt, you may kindly convey that to Madam.
Is the subject clear to you all?
Yeah, ma'am. One student has given me a doubt.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain about the olfactory nerve supply to the nose, and also what are the complications of olfactory nerve damage?
See, I have not mentioned the olfactory nerve supply into this. That's a separate topic. That the olfactory nerves that I have just mentioned, you have two supplies. The nerve supply is by the general sensory and the olfactory. I've just peripherally mentioned that. That's a separate topic. Okay, that's a vast topic and that has not been discussed in this part.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, another question.
Yeah.
How carcinoma of maxillary sinus arise?
Okay, there are different reasons for carcinoma of maxillary sinus. That is, when the sinus valve, initially what happens is the patient will be having continuous, initial signs will be, patient will be complaining of continuous blowing out from nose, continuous irritation, rhinitis, etc. for a few, say for example, 6 to 8 months. This doesn't mean that all patients having rhinitis might develop carcinoma. The lining of the mucosa, maxillary sinus gets eroded. The cilia, functioning of the cilia gets compromised, and what happens is that there will be difference in the epithelial lining of the maxillary sinus, which if not identified in the earlier stages can lead to maxillary carcinomas, maxillary sinus carcinoma. Another possibility is that oral cavity. From the oral cavity, if the patient develops carcinoma of the oral cavity and erosion of the alveolar bone, that can again cause the transfer of cancer from the primary site, oral cavity, to the secondary site, maxillary sinus. Is the doubt clarified?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that your doubt?
Ma'am, we are actually running out of time. We also know that you are also busy. Shall we continue the discussion session tomorrow by 11:30?
Tomorrow, actually, that's my OT day.
Okay. So if anyone is having any doubts, kindly ask. You can either put that in the chat.
Mail ID.
Yeah,
I
ma'am.
can give you all my mail ID.
Okay.
Okay. You are free to ping me anytime. I'll respond to your mails. If there are not any further doubts for now, you can go through the topic and then again get back to me.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. I'll share your mail ID with everyone
Sure.
so that they can have a direct contact with you.
Yeah. Hope this was useful for you all.
Yeah, ma'am. It was useful. So,
for your patient hearing and for this opportunity. Special thanks to Dr. Anup. I don't know whether you all know, he's my brother also. So I thank him for this opportunity he has given me this platform. Okay, thank you all.
So on behalf of Department of Anatomy and Shiva Ayurvedic Medical College and Hospital, we thank you, ma'am. We thank you so much for spending this 1.5 hours with us, and also very happily accepting our invitation to share knowledge to another discipline student. That is well appreciable, ma'am. So we'll always be respectful, and we are always privileged for you giving your time to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So if any further doubts are coming, I'll share your mail ID and it will be conveyed to you, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.
Have a great day, ma'am.